Welcome everyone. Today we have a new Diablo 4 video for the new Season 3. Yes, it's been a while since I made a new video and there's been a few things that's going on. I'll try to explain this at the end of the video, but firstly, let's jump into the Season 3 for the new classes. Not the new classes, I was hoping for new classes. Yes, let's jump into Season 3 for the 5 current classes. I was hoping for a new class. So yes, so usually with a new season, what I like to do is I like to decide through the patch notes and also through the new mechanics that's coming, through the changes, to see which of the class I want to go into play the season, which of the class I want to start as my starting seasonal class, which of the class I want to progress and play through. I have 3 classes in mind and I'll explain to you guys why I'm going to pick those 3 classes. And I have been going through some of the patch notes with the changes, with unique items, with legendaries, and also with the class-specific stats and also changes. For example, the 900% charge with Barbarians is going to make things very interesting. So this video will be broken down into about 3 parts. I'll make it brief. We'll go through the class updates with a Blizzard livestream summary, and this will give us an understanding of which of the buffs and changes for each of the class and for different build that will be highlighted. After that, we'll briefly go through the patch notes for each of the classes while I'm going through my rankings for the class from 1 to 10. You can see a majority of the ranking are pretty high because I tend to give high rankings. But let's go through this one and let's see how we go and which are the best class for Season 3 before the starting of the season. So briefly coming over to my screenshots of the Blizzard summary of the campfire livestream. So yes, you can see quite a bit of the writing over here. What I recommend is looking where my mouse is, looking on the top of the right hand corner. You can see the build and also classes that is getting buffed. So for Barbarians, it is going to be a charge build that will be highlighted, together with the key passives with a working arsenal, which allows you to swap a lot of weapons. So right away, you can see a number of builds that can be made. Now briefly coming over to the Barbarian notes over here, you can see that the Barbarian overpower have been nerfed. And yes, likely we're looking at about maybe 40-50% reduced damage. And as for the Barbarians, there is likely going to be a basic attack build because of the changes and also new items that allows you to deal more damage and also new playstyle with a basic attack. And because there will be charge build that's getting massively buffed and also the rent build that's getting buffed, I have ranked the Barbarians a little highly because of that. So overall, I do think the Barbarian definitely going to have a lot of class build variation, because you can play the old Hotter build, you can play Upheaval build, you can play the Rent build, you can play Whirlwind build, you can play a Frozen build, you can also play a Charge build. And if you plus the Thorns build, which is still no matter for the end game, you have a ton of variation for the Barbarians. Then this allows us to have a more smooth farming and also leveling progression with the Barbarians. Now, to be honest, there are some changes with the shells and changes with the Fury game. We won't go through that into too much details, but the ease of the build will depend if you get a crucial piece of your legendary aspects in the early game and maybe in the mid game. Well, this allows you to go into a charge build, this might allow you to go to the Hammer of Ancient build or maybe Whirlwind build. So overall, I think the Barbarian is definitely going to be top meta, simply because the Barbarians have more item slots, and this allows you to benefit the most from having more uber unique items. Which there were some changes with the uber unique items. The Ring of the Starless seems to be better, and the Melter of Sinjo is not going to give us immortality. So you can see I have ranked the Barbarians quite highly, and overall this is the class I'm planning to play the most as a starting class for Season 3. Once I get my Barbarian done, the next class I'm planning to look into is actually going to be Sorceress or Necromancer, which will go to those classes after this. Now, because I spent a little longer time on Barbarians because I'm so excited for the class, so let's briefly go through the other 4 classes. So we have the Druid, and if you guys remember, the Paralyzed Druid utilizes Overpower, and Overpower has been nerfed. And as for the other plays of the Druid, we do have 2 new additional plays of the Druid, which is going to be one of the main things for the new season. The Lightning Storm Druid with a unique item that allows us to benefit most from the Lightning Storms, and the Poison Rabies will be very interesting. Now as for the Necromancer, the Bone Spirit Necromancer is definitely getting a rise. And if I remember correctly, the Bone Spirit will be very interesting with new mechanics from the unique items. and there will be buffs to the golems to do more damage and also more, passives from multiplicative from the Book of the Dead. As for the rogue, this is the class that I'm a little uncertain of whether I want to play, because for the rogue, there is going to be multiple buffs to the range build of the rogue, and also the traps and also catch-ups. Now you can see the background behind me, this is a range, the stock market for the range rogue is skyrocketing, and there's a lot of buff to the range unique items. The downside with a range rogue is that your survivability will be a little lower. Likely you'll be kiting a lot, and the playstyle will be more delicate. So I can see through the patch notes, there's a lot of rotations, there's a lot of requirement for the rogue to maximize the damage and also skill rotations. So this is going to be a class that's going to require you to have the most skill and also brain work, but this could be very challenging. Finally, for the sources, the media sources and also elemental summoner will be very interesting, especially with the new unique items and also new build that will be introduced. On the topic of sources, we know how ball lightning sources is like kind of broken, right? And this was similar to the case with barbarians. So the ball lightning sources and also overpowered barbarians, they have been adjusted to give them a weaker, damage output to provide more stats for the other builds. Now, yes, I could go through all the patch notes for each of the class. I'll try to briefly go through those. So yes, you can see the new unique items for the Lightning Storm Druid, which will be very nice to try different style of the Druid. And this will allow you to clear the content faster, and this will allow you to, level faster and also progress into endgame much faster. And I do believe this is a benefit for the Druid, who tend to be a little slower. As for the Necromancer, Bloodlance build will be great for leveling. The Bone Spear build will be interesting once you have enough pieces. And the Corpse Explosion has been changed a little bit with higher base damage but lower lucky hit chance. So if you guys are planning to do the Infamous build, I do believe it will still work. But to how much of the extent compared to the previous seasons, we'll be testing this as well. And as for the rogue, you can see there will be unique items and a lot of gears that requires to do the combination of ultimate spells, core spells, and ability to rotate those skills. And I do think this will be a little challenging. And the Twisted Blade Rogue, which allows you to do, the melee rogue is a little bit changed and also nerfed, in my opinion. We won't go through too much into details, it's actually very long. I'll go through my ratings with you guys very soon. And finally, for sources, the sources ball lightning is definitely nerfed, I think at least by 30% of the attack speed, and that means DPS output, at least 30%. It's a little tricky with the numbers, and we can't tell unless we try it out, right? Now, the media sources is always something I'm interested in, and this is why sources is likely going to be the second or the third class I play for the new season. And let's come back to the summary then. So, overall, as for leveling, I do believe Rogue will level quite fast, similarly with sources, just by the nature of the class. And they are some of the classes that tend to get more resource, they're very mobile. And in that sense, I think most of the classes should not have a problem with farming once you get your build up. In terms of the ease of the build, some classes might have a certain legendary aspects that enable them to play a certain build. And this will be related to the class variation. And this really depends on which of the build you're following. What I recommend is, regardless which of the class you want to play, you should be having 1 to 3 build ready. Just for the case while you're leveling, you get a certain legendary aspects to allow you to play a certain build to level faster and also get to the endgame faster. Now, mobility is going to be a pretty considerable factor, especially having more time-based, dungeons and also content in the game. So in terms of mobility, I still think the Rogue has the best mobility, followed by Barbarians with a shout and also, Unstoppable, and also Sources with Blink. The Druid and also Necromancer are a little slower with mobility, and this is always the class nature. In terms of gameplay enjoyment, I have thoroughly enjoyed Barbarians in the previous season, and I do think as I get to a higher endgame with more uber unique items, I will enjoy the Barbarian a lot more. And this is one of the bigger reasons for me to pick Barbarians as my starting class. And finally, those are just some of my own personal thoughts in terms of what other content I can play, what are the things I can do with the class. And I won't go through each of those into details. You can see they're very close to the 8 section because I believe the balance changes and also the direction they're taking is to give each of the class something you can enjoy, something you can play with. There will be some lower rankings. For example, the defensive hardcore for Rogue is definitely a little lower. And also in terms of the PvE content, the Druid could be a little slower, but maybe with the Lightning Storm Druid, it can be a little faster. So overall, my top 3 classes for the new season, for Season 3, will be Barbarians, followed by the Sources, and also by the Necromancer. Now the wild factor will be the Rogue and also the Druid, because the Rogue could just kill everything with a range build if you don't even see things on the map, because you're going for range build. I still remember in Diablo 3, the Demon Hunters just kills everything before you even see them. And as for the Druid, this could be a wild factor because of the Lightning Storm Druid. This could level super fast and transition into the end game super fast. So for me, I'll start with Barbarians, and once I get to level 95, level 100 with Barbarians, I might start to play the Sources on the Necromancer, depends which of the key items I get from the Uber unique items and also for the end game items. And after that, I'll see which of the class is best in the meta and go from there. Let me know your thoughts of the class and also builds for the new season, and which of the class would you be playing for the new season. Now, as a brief summary of what's happening to me. Well, the previous season, I was getting a little tired personally and a little burned out because I always have this thing that I play a lot for the first month. Then I get so burned out and so exhausted, I'm too tired to keep playing. For this season, I want to keep it more moderation. I don't want to push everything through. And as for other things, I had something happening with my family and I was helping out, and myself was getting a lot of stress from everything else, and it was kind of overwhelming. I was getting a little depressed. So this is one of the reasons that I haven't been making a lot of videos, and I don't want to make this a thing. I want to constantly make 1 or 2 videos at least a week. So this is my goal for this season and also for the New Year's. So I want to be consistent with my video making. I don't want to be, on and off, have a few months I don't make videos, have a few months I make a lot of videos. So I do want to make it, more consistent for you guys as well. So let me know what you guys think about Diablo 4. And yes, I'll be trying a lot more new games for this particular year. For example, the Pass of Exile beta and also other games that will be coming this year. So quite excited. I'll see you guys on the next video.